Last night I dreamed 10,000 grandmothers from the 1,200 corners of the earth walked out into the gap, one breath deep between the bullet and the flesh, between the bomb and the family. They told me, we cannot wait for governments. There are no peacekeepers boarding planes. There are no leaders who dare to say every life is precious. So it will have to be us. They said we will cup our hands around each heart. We will sing the earth's song, the song of water, a song so beautiful that vengeance will turn to weeping. The mourners will embrace and grief replace every impulse toward harm. 10,000 is not enough, they said. So we have sent this dream like a flock of doves into the sleep of the world. Wake up. Put on your shoes. You who are hearing this, I am bringing bandages and a bag of scented guavas from my trees. I think I remember the tune. Meet me at the corner. Let's go. J.D. Vance, if you're tuning in this morning, I'll get to you a little bit later, but I think you may still be young enough to learn a thing or two about those of us who continue to offer our lives to the world, even, dare I say it, after menopause. Jocko Willink is a legendary commander of the Navy SEALs. I'd never heard of him until this summer when I heard him speak, and I'll just say this, his words gripped my heart and made me think of all of you and all of us here together at this enterprise that we are in together. He's retired from the SEALs and now he continues to pursue his vision by sharing tools of leadership and working with others. He has said from the moment he joined the Navy SEALs, I believe he was 17, that his vision in life was to wake up every day and dedicate his life to those who never came back. To keep and honor their memory and to create effective and trusting units to do the work of the SEALs in the world. Now, as I'm sure many of you know, and I learned even a little bit better as I was thumbing through the Navy SEALs training manual, I will tell you just that made me tired. It is no small thing to get through that training. Arduous swimming, arduous hiking, employing and plumbing the depths of our bodies, of our spirits, of our emotional endurance. Just for starters, as Jocko Willink explained in the interview, the long interview I heard, it's very, very uncommon for a recruit or for a SEAL to actually take a sick day. They show up. They show up anyway because they know, they trust that their teammates will pick up the slack. That those who are at full strength will swim harder, run faster, and use their gifts more deeply to pick up the slack of the person who is, for a time, unwell. And when that person regains their health, they come back and are trusted themselves to make that effort. When I heard him talk about that level of trust, that trust that is built, it's not a concept, but something that is lived, I thought about our enterprise here together. I thought about what it means to be part of a community where you, as we all are, at many times in our life when we are not at our best, what it means to be in a place where you can actually trust others, fully trust others, to carry on for you until you can come back. The Navy SEALs training manual goes on to invite all trainees not just to excel in whatever areas or whatever gifts they have, but to make sure that they get out of their comfort zone into the areas that are more difficult for them. If you are a solid runner, the manual says, but a weak swimmer, don't spend all your time running just because you're good at it. Move out of your comfort zone and spend enough time in the water to become a solid swimmer as well. At some point along our pathway to liberation and spiritual maturity, our personal or collective fear paralyzes us. Maybe it's too much. Maybe there is too much war and destruction. Maybe there's too much uncertainty. Maybe we are loving someone who is ill. Maybe we are struggling ourselves in so many ways. We need a place of refuge, a place to reconnect in spirit, and this church, your church, is meant to be that place. This church, your church, is meant to be the place where you come to be held and nurtured back to health. In our 12-step programs, we often say to newcomers or to people who are hurting, we will love you until you learn to love yourself. And I've always thought of that in my own mind as what I feel about, what I believe about Unitarian Universalist congregations. At our best, we love you until you can love yourself. But something else can happen too. After years of COVID or the Spanish flu or continued racialized violence, the murder of George Floyd, a disastrous presidential debate where our hopes were already met and now they're that's code for you know what. And the fear we carry suddenly becomes the only thing that carries us. And the dreams we dreamt, the vision we had, the focus we brought is lost. We might even forget that we once had dreams. And we wait for them, whoever they are, to make the work happen that needs to happen. And so I will say to you too, this church, your church, is also meant to be the place where we remind one another of our dreams, where we remind one another to choose courage over fear. Because picking up the slack for someone else sometimes means to say, let me hold you while I challenge you. This is why we are here. This is why we are here. This church is meant to be a place where along the path to liberation and spiritual maturity, we learn to be better and stronger and more determined. Because, let's be clear, our Unitarian Universalist faith calls us into action today and every day. Injustice anywhere, my beloveds, is injustice everywhere. And you and I will never be free until all of us are free. This is what democracy looks like. The great Audre Lorde once famously said, "When I dare to be powerful, to use my power in service of my mission, it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid." Bear with me, I'd like to share that again. When I dare to be powerful, when I use my power in service of my vision, it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. She doesn't say you get rid of all fear. She says that something bigger, something stronger, something more powerful and more filled with love can hold you. And sometimes that community we have here is that thing. So this morning I dare us to be powerful. I dare us to use our individual and our collective power in the service of our vision. I dare us to be trustworthy for one another. And I dare us to be fearless in trusting one another. After all, the 10,000 grandmothers are saying, let's go. So, Mr. Vance, as you tell us that our only value in society is to babysit our grandchildren, which is a delight indeed, especially since we can return them. I'm sure that Levins Morales' grandmothers all lovingly babysit their grandchildren. But we, the wisdom elders with the experience, wisdom, and love to remember our collective dreams and answer the call when it comes. We can be and will be the elders who think to the next 7 and 10 generations of grandchildren, dreaming for them a future filled with love, clean air, plentiful food, and the ability to love whoever, whenever they want. And we, the grandmothers and honorary grandmothers, we fight for them. We babysit and we fight for their dreams, and we hold their dreams alive, and we love them with all our hearts, even though we will probably never see their faces. And we know that that future will not create itself. And they, whoever they are, will create it. It's up to us. It's up to us. Regardless of who wins the election in November, it will not be the end. Because, beloved community, it's going to take more than one election. Again, no matter how that goes. So as I dare us to be powerful, I ask us, do we have the will to win? I'm expecting some, UU censor floating around back here to say, we don't do military analogies. So far, it hasn't happened. Do we have the will to win? Do we have one another's back? Do we encourage one another even when we disagree? Do we put our humanity first? Do we lead with love and purpose? Some of you may remember when the legendarily racist Southern governor of Alabama, George Wallace, was shot in 1972 by Arthur Bremer, a man who, unlike today, did not seem to have a particular ideology, he just wanted to be famous. Governor Wallace, whose motto had been segregation then, segregation now, and segregation always, was close to death. And the extraordinary Shirley Chisholm, who had just become the first woman and the first Black woman to declare her candidacy of the president for the presidency of the United States, got on a plane and went to visit Wallace in the hospital. There could not be two human beings on the planet who had more different views of the world. And she marched into his hotel room and she told him how sorry she was that he had been shot and how terrible it was that that had happened. She put her humanity first. And he survived. His political career really didn't continue in the way he would have wanted it to be. He was paralyzed always for the rest of his life from the waist down. And I'm hoping that his speechwriter, who was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, I'm hoping that meant that speechwriter was out of a job, but I don't know the answer. Shirley Chisholm empathized, and they talked a lot. And when George Wallace left the hospital and for the rest of his life, his views on race had changed. They were not what they had been. He made a difference in a different way. Let's go, beloveds. Let us dare to be powerful. And let us dare to lead with our humanity and courage, as our faith calls us to. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.